If you do not mind, then appreciate my efforts by subscribing to my channel. Thank you very much in advance.
The war in Ukraine will surely force some paragraphs in West Point textbooks to be rewritten. The longer a fighter is on the front line, the more sophisticated his tactics. In some cases, ordinary dirty work reaches the short battle, where will and reason prevailed over numerical superiority. After this battle, the situation on a separate sector of the front changed dramatically. Gray zone. This is the territory that neither side controls. When the fighting takes place within a city, we're talking about a strip 100 to 200 feet wide. Outside a city, the size of the gray zone depends on the terrain. Open country or lowlands between hills are difficult to defend, so troops prefer to occupy more convenient areas. Sometimes we're talking about a gray zone 2,000 feet wide or more. In this case, even small villages can be located in the gray zone. Groups of scouts or saboteurs constantly pass through them. These are the most trained and bold fighters that hold an officer rank. Every fourth Spetsnaz soldier who died was an officer. Passing through a gray zone should be unnoticed. Any resident of the village can turn out to be an informer of the enemy. When the special forces meet a civilian on their route, after a short interrogation, the witness is eliminated. There is no sentimentality here, especially when special forces operate on foreign terrain. The Ukrainian authorities regularly find in the liberated cities and villages the corpses of civilians with their hands tied and traces of torture. In most cases, the victims became casual witnesses of the actions of the Russian special forces. The interrogation passes quickly because the reconnaissance team has very little time. The victim is tied up and their eyes covered with duct tape. Already at this stage, a person tells everything that they know about the location and movements of the enemy. They hope it will save them, but as a rule, it does not. If the victim does not panic, then the next step is to stab the thigh with a knife. It hurts, but not so much that the person faints or screams loudly in pain. The questions are repeated. The prisoner is promised a dressing of the wound in exchange for their truthful answers. When a person is no longer of interest as a source of information, they are eliminated. We will not describe the methods of murder. We touched on this topic so that you do not suddenly have sympathy for the targets of the sniper. This battle took place near the village of Belagorovka, not far from Lysychansk. It was morning. The sun had already risen. The Russian reconnaissance group was returning from a mission. The Russians spent the whole night in the gray zone. They tried to locate the positions of Ukrainian snipers on the western bank of the Seversky Donets River. They were snipers of the Ukrainian Special Operations Forces, SOF. These are the most skilled shooters of the Ukrainian army, if we do not take into account snipers from the Special Forces of the Security Service of Ukraine. About a month before this battle, Russian troops tried to cross over the pontoon crossing to the West Bank. We are talking about the events when the Russian command sent the 74th Motorized Rifle Brigade to cross the Seversky Donets near Belagorovka, Lugansk region. The entire Russian grouping was covered by Ukrainian artillery. The Russians lost more than 70 pieces of heavy equipment and about 500 soldiers. The crossing at Belagorovka is the most convenient place for a foothold on the western bank of the Seversky Donets. From this point, it was possible to close the ring around the Ukrainian grouping in the Rubizhne, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk triangle. At the same time, the Russians were breaking through towards the bridgehead near Belagorovka from the southwest. If successful, Russian forces could cut all the Lysychansk, Seversk, Bakhmut roads. Up to 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers could be surrounded. Without the delivery of ammunition, fuel, and food, the Ukrainians would have to surrender or perish. The situation at that time looked like this. After the defeat at the crossing, the Russians decided to act differently. First, saturate the bridgehead on the western bank of the river with infantry. Push the Ukrainians away from Belagorovka, and then transport the equipment. Ukrainian snipers strongly held back the advance of the Russian infantry. Death from a single sniper's bullet demoralizes the entire platoon, and prolonged actions of a sniper demoralize even a company. The situation was so serious that specialists in anti-sniper combat from the FSB Special Unit Alpha arrived near Belagorovka. Specifically, the Russian reconnaissance group of 8 people was discovered by a Ukrainian shooter at night. This is not the first time that Russians have used this route to cross and penetrate the gray zone. Ukrainian snipers operate according to the classical scheme, in sniper pairs. The shooter is accompanied by an assistant. In addition to a rifle and a machine gun, the couple is armed with several types of sniper equipment: telescope, laser pointer, collimator sight, thermal imager. In order to not reveal his position, the sniper decided not to shoot, but to continue his observation. This is also the responsibility of the sniper pair. If the Russians had crossed the gray zone in the direction of the Ukrainian positions, they would have been met by forward patrols of Ukrainians. Information about the enemy reconnaissance group has already been received by the commander, but the Russian reconnaissance group acted differently.